Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So the National Association of Home Builders put out a report today. But before I get into that, I kind of like to take you back to an article that I found in Market Watch dated June 30th. And it says, we're probably at peak housing, and here's what that means. And one of the things that I found here in this article, I'm not going to read you the whole article. I just want to kind of read you one of these quotes. And this quote comes from Richard Moody, the chief economist from Regions. And he says, you can withstand some further increases in mortgage rates, but at some point eventually you hit a tipping point on mortgage rates where it does erode affordability, right? And so basically, you know what that means. I mean, as interest rates rise, you know, they can't afford what the asking price for the house, and so the affordability is then diminished. And then chief economist for Freddie Mac thinks there's still room to run. Catter thinks existing home sales have hit speed limit and recognize that rising rates will at some point price many people out of the market. So he's kind of saying the same thing with it, right? But then he kind of goes on to say something a little different in defense of it. He says, usually oversupply is what causes housing downturns. Remember, home builders throwing up development after development in 2005 to 2006, farther and farther away from the city centers, in expectations that there would be an endless supply of people to buy them? Here we are, 9 years later, we've had 3 straight years of inventory decline. Cotter said in an interview, it's not only not expanding, it's contracting. The consensus is that if there is a recession, it's a modest, plain vanilla recession. If that's the case, I think what it might do is cause inventories to rise modestly and home prices growth to slow. My base case is that an economic recession, but not a real estate recession. So that's actually pretty good news coming out of the Freddie Mac guy, if that's the way it turns out to be. But the main concern that these guys had back, 6 months ago was inventory levels and interest rates, right? That's the two things that I kind of took out of the article as far as being the big issues with it. But then now we come to the report, right? And it says here, I got this one out of Market Watch, and it's dated today, June 19th. Right, and the title of it is "Home Builder Confidence Tumbles the Most Since 2014 as Housing Headwinds Catch Up." And it kind of goes on to say here, the many headwinds that have been dodging the industry finally showed up in this report. Labor is still expensive, lots are still scarce, lumber is at the mercy of tariff politics, and now mortgage rates are rising and customers are holding back. So the report has some issues going on. They're saying, hey, you got labor is expensive, the lots are expensive, the lumber is, who knows what the lumber is doing with the tariffs and all. And then you got mortgage rates as well. So 6 months ago, they were worried about mortgage rates and inventory levels. Now they got a whole list of other stuff that they're worried about. Anyway, it goes on to say, NAHB, the building industry Washington lobby, noted in a press release that the reading of 60 is still above positive. Okay, so let me show you the chart here real quick. And this is the highlighted line down here, the green one, that's 50. So as long as you're above 50, you're doing good, right? And that's improving. If you're under 50, I guess you're unimproving, right? So it says here is 60 is still positive, but that customers are taking a pause. The 8-point plunge is only reminiscent of the 9-point plunge after 9/11 attacks and the one other instance of a 10-point drop in early 2014, right? So what they're referring to is the 2014 one, which I believe is right there. And then they're also talking about the 9/11 one, which is right there, right? And let's see here. The overall reading is the lowest since mid-2016, November 2016. The November's result badly missed the Econo Day consensus of a flat reading. So what they were thinking is that it was just going to go straight across, flat, right? That this little drop here was just going to keep going across. But look what it did. It just dropped like straight down. It's the 8 points that they're talking about is between the yellow line and the pink line right there. And then also look at that channel that it was following. See how it busted out of the channel? That's something to take note of, okay? It goes on to say here, in November, the sub-gauge of current conditions fell 7 points to 67. The tracker of expected future conditions plunged 10 points to 65, and the gauge of buyer traffic was down 8 points to 45. And that's a key one right there. You think about it. Remember, they just said that anything over 50, you're improving. Anything under that, you're not improving. And it says 45 right there as far as the buyer traffic goes. So yeah, it doesn't look good as far as the builder sentiment goes from coming out of the NHB. But what was kind of some positive news, because I don't want to give you just nothing but the bad stuff, right? There's also some positive news that came out of this, and that's the remodeling confidence remains solid, right? And that's a good sign for guys in my area, because the houses in my area are really old. They're like, we come from a very old location, so like 100-year-old houses is really common. There's a lot of 100-year-old houses in our area, and these things are always in disrepair, right? Because you got, our environment is really tough on them. We get an intense amount of rain and wind and craziness that goes on around here, and it eats your houses alive. And so there's a lot of upkeep that has to be done to these houses, and then of course remodeling is part of that. So that's really good news to hear that remodeling confidence remains solid, and that's going to be good news for my area locally here. But it goes on to say the remodeling market index remains stable with the reading of 58 in the third quarter of 2018. According to the National Association of Home Builders, the RMI, the remodeling index, has been at or above 50 since the second quarter of 2013. Way back there, right? So, remodeling seems to be a consistently, strong industry as far as the home ownership goes, or the home building goes, which indicates that more remodelers report market activity as high than report that it is low. So the guys who do the remodeling saying, no, man, we got a lot going on here, and a lot more reporting higher activity than lower activity. That is a really, really good sign for us here in my area. And then it goes on to say, a strong economy coupled with low unemployment and easing lumber prices are being offset by rising interest rates and ongoing labor shortages. And so the key thing that I took out of there is easing lumber prices. Easing lumber prices. And I called this, right? I said that we were starting to have a drop in it, and that's what you're going to have when you have less builders going on. You're going to have less lumber sales, and if you have less lumber sales, then you have a supply build, and if you have a supply build, down goes prices, and that's what we're having right now with the lumber. So yeah, great news for remodelers. You guys are. There's no issues going on with them. And then also, to me, that's actually pretty decent news as far as the lumber prices goes for people who are looking to build houses here in the future. Because, as these prices drop, it's going to be easier and easier. It's going to be cheaper and cheaper for you to build this home. Problem is that the interest rates are going to go up on it. So yeah, even though the prices of the material are dropping, the interest rates are starting to rise. So yeah, there's kind of a, I don't know what the catch-22 inside of that. Anyway, that's what the report said. Kind of bad news for new home building and stuff like that going on, but remodelers, you guys are in full steam ahead. All right, Uneducated Economist. Talk to you guys later.